Hello my friends, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with another My Hero Academia action figure review. That's right, after liking my Uravity figures so much, I figured I should go to my local GameStop where some of the Wave 1 figures are still available and get the iconic Deku, aka Izuku Midoriya. But I'll be referring to him as Deku as that's much shorter and easier to say. Specifically, this is the variant that is in full cowling mode, as I believe they made two versions of this figure, one in the more neutral expression, and this one, which is in full-on battle mode. So right away when you look at him in the box, you can tell that this already addresses one issue that I had with my Uravity figure, and that is the neutral facial expression looks a little bit well, I think one of my commenters said it best. It looks a little bit soulless, especially with how large the eyes are. When you have eyes that big that aren't really giving you an emotional expression, it can look a little bit creepy. I mean, that's not a knock against the artist who created the franchise. Like, he's a great artist, and I always think that the anime and the manga look great. It's just that when you're reading the manga or watching the anime, you don't have to look at any one facial expression for more than a few seconds. So when it's frozen forever on an action figure, you kind of have to be careful with that. So that being said, let's get Midoriya out of his very simple little box, which showcases pictures of the other figures from the series. GameStop still had some All Mights in stock, but Bakugo and this guy, whose name I'm forgetting on, they were sold out. Although, you know, they looked good. The only reason I didn't pick them up, aside from the fact that I don't really collect all toys ever, was that I was afraid that, you know, they'd be fragile. But Uravity convinced me that they wouldn't be fragile, so here we go. Before I get them the rest of the way out of the packaging, I'd like to point out that this one has a much more collector-friendly way to keep the stand. It's simply held into a round part on the back of this and held on with this piece of ordinary tape. So if this tape wears out, you can put a new piece of tape on, and you don't have to tear at the back of the box to get your stand. So that's good. Okay, so here is full cowling Deku out of the packaging. Just a quick size check. He is a tiny bit shorter than Uravity. I think this is because, well, Deku is not exactly a very tall guy. I mean, he's supposed to be the epitome of ordinary kid, so the fact that he's actually slightly below average height kind of adds to his charm. Also, as we all know, when you're 14, girls tend to grow faster than boys, so, you know, it's all... Deku still has some growing to do, so in a few more years, he'll probably be taller than Ochako. Okay, so let's get the few negatives I have for the figure out of the way, and then we can talk about how awesome it is otherwise. 1. These electrical effects on his arms. There's nothing inherently wrong with the electrical effects. They offer plenty of room, and they're made out of a perfectly soft material that does not impede articulation in every way. That being said, they are permanently attached. You can't remove them. So you're always going to have these electrical effects on, and I know that does... I mean, this is the full cowling form. I just wish that they gave you an option to take these things off, or maybe like to have them disconnected and put them on the legs so you can do the shoot style thing where he powers up his legs instead. But, you know, that's minor nitpick number 1. The second is that although the full cowling effect on the body looks pretty cool, having these purple streaks with white streaks painted inside, creating a dynamic lightning type effect. On his face, it just kind of looks like somebody smeared a jelly donut on him. This is not what the full cowling lines look like on his face in the anime. It just kind of looks weird here. So, yeah, his expression's good. I like the way his eyes are in the stern anger mode, and his face is in a shout, like he's in full battle mode. And his hair is even slightly different from usual, like it's doing a thing where it's spiking up and curling, you know, because like everybody does that thing where their hair starts to float Super Saiyan style when they power up. That's like a law now. But yeah, like the pink lines themselves drawn on for the full cowling, that doesn't quite look right. And the third negative I will give to the deco is none of this is on the back. all the full cowling is done on the front. There isn't any of it actually painted on his back. This is kind of like the Hasbro or like, you know how sometimes Hasbro or who was it that made the Power Rangers figures? Bandai of America or Hasbro would often cheap out on their paint jobs by not painting the part of the figure that you can't see while it's in the packaging. So you have this really nicely decorated front, and then when you take it out of the box, you find the back is unpainted black plastic, like some of the Megazord figures from the Power Rangers lines, or like some of the Transformers. Like, I remember one Transformer was packaged in car mode in such a way that you would only see the profile of the car, and then when you took the car out of the box, you find that the patterns and decoration for his for the car mode is literally only on the half of the car that you can see from outside the packaging, and the back of it was unpainted. That was bullcrap, and this is reminding me of that. Alright, but that being said, those are really the only minor nitpicks I can throw at it, because otherwise the figure is just great. Once again, any fears of fragility, you can cast those aside. The figure is super durable, and all of his joints are tight but smooth, and the ratcheted ones have enough click points that they don't feel too limiting, and the figure just works fantastically, so no fragility. So let's get a quick breakdown of his articulation. Head is on a ball joint, but because of his collar, which gets in the way, his ears and cheeks bump it, he doesn't really have any kind of tilt or expressiveness. His head just kind of turns. If they had made this cowl removable, by the way, yeah, it's his cowl, which he incorporated as part of his costume, but he almost never wears. Which is all good, because I think it looks kind of scary when he puts this thing on. That's not the look that he should be going for. Maybe if it wasn't green. Maybe if his costume was yellow, so it evoked All Might more. But now I'm just nitpicking the actual designs from the show. I don't want to do that. So yeah, the head is limited. Arms are on pin discs, and I think, yeah, there's a shallow butterfly joint underneath the pin disc, but it's not like the butterfly joint imparts too much. There is a bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, although getting both of them to bend is sometimes I can get the bottom part to bend, but when I try to bend the top part, it really fights me. Like, it's there. Like, it's easier to do on this arm, so you can see the bend. I can do this with the other arm, but you know, this ratchet's just a little tight. The lightning bolt effect attaches to the elbow pad, so it's in between the joints, therefore able to bend around both parts. So that's a good place to choose to attach the lightning bolt effect for it to be permanent. The hands are on those pseudo Revoltech joints, so you get this nice wide curl. It's ratcheted. You can twist it around on the swivel, and that works just fine. Got double ball joints, one in the hips, one in the torso, which, like, the one in the torso really only works back and forth because the sculpt of his belt prevents it from rotating, but up in his chest he can rotate pretty well, so that's fine. Hips, they go forward that much, about 90 degrees. They don't go backwards very far because of the sculpting of the butt. And I feel like he does have a bit of a thigh swivel, but it is limited by the sculpting. As you can see, I can rotate it, which, you know, it seems kind of like a lost opportunity, because given the fact that he has his leg bracers right here, this would have been a perfect place to put a thigh swivel the same way that a bicep swivel is worked in underneath this line of his costume. So, like, they integrated so neatly in with the deco here, they could have perfectly integrated it here as well, but, you know, they didn't. Double jointed knees, which I have no problem moving, and another pseudo Revoltech joint for his ankle, which can rotate as well, so you can turn it into an ankle rocker by turning it the other way. Although, oh great, now it's got awkward. Oh crap, his foot is backwards now. There we go. And he has a toe joint, something that Uraka didn't have, but Uraka's feet are much smaller and she's wearing high heel shoes, so they probably couldn't fit that. So he is super well articulated and mondo posable. Oh, funny thing, he only has one hole in his foot for use of the stand, so if you want to get him into a kicking pose where he won't be able to balance on one foot, you're going to have to make sure he's kicking up with his right foot. Although he can't quite kick high enough for it to look like his shoot style, because you know, the limitations of the hips only being able to go up 90 degrees. I can't really think of a way to solve that without putting in like the Figma style thing where you have a stem that pulls down. So for what it is, this is perfectly good articulation. The figure poses great, and he can look pretty darn fine. So yeah. Thanks to the relatively large feet, Deku can actually stand quite well without use of his stand, by the way. So don't feel like you're obligated to keep him on that stand so he can pose well. Like I said, I wish he had some deeper hip bends so you could like give him a 3-point landing or have him do a deep crouch. But the figure just... The way that the figure is sculpted and his facial expression allows him to really look dynamic with relatively little effort. So this is a figure that will look fantastic on display. And the design of Deku's costume, with all the pads and stuff on his joints, actually make it blend pretty well. From first glance, in the right pose, you can actually mistake this thing for a statue rather than an action figure. And that's a really, really cool thing. Like, the big problem with having an action figure is that joints always get in the way of the sculpt. And statues, like, you know, eventually might get tired of that pose. So this is a great compromise between the two. Aside from the stand, Deku only comes with 2 accessories. They are his hands, curled up into fists. They have the full cowling lightning bolts going across the back of them. And the swap out is very simple. You just make sure that the lightning is out of the way, and you pull it off of the joint. Yeah, it's a nice thick peg, so you don't feel like you're gonna rip or tear it. It's all fine. And then the other hand goes on. You just kind of push it, and there you go. It's on. Yeah. I wish it had a more satisfying click, but yeah. But now Deku has fists, so he can do his Detroit Smash and Brooklyn Rage or or whatever other name thing from the U.S. followed by Smash, because that's the All Might naming convention, because he used to live in America. So yeah, like, if you're a My Hero Academia fan, this is a great action figure of the main character. Like I said, there should also be a clean version of him without the full cowling effects, if you really like that better. But it's not like this full cowling does anything wrong, and it does make the figure look a lot cooler and more dynamic depending on what poses you have. Especially with these really good lightning effects that they wrapped around his arms. Oh, by the way, you can totally just pull it up around the fist, just fine. Works equally well wrapped around his fist as it does around his clenched hands. So yeah, if you're a My Hero Academia fan and you like McFarlane toys, you like collect. This thing costs about the same as a Marvel Legends figure, so it's not like it's super expensive. And it feels really good. Looks good, from the front at least. Feels good, poses good, everything about it's good. So, yeah, bring on the My Hero Academia figure collections. It's actually really awesome. And I'm actually wondering if we're going to start to see like really, really out there figures. Like are we going to get to see? Are we gonna get like a little tiny Mineta? Make Mineta a Pack-In figure with like a pair of disembodied hands and shoes to be the Invisible Girl, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Or when we get to see Ida with his giant suit of armor, that would be a cool action figure to get. And you know what? I would buy Froppy. I would definitely buy Froppy as soon as she came out, because she is one of my favorites from the show too. Basically, if Spider-Man was a frog, then that's Froppy. Okay, so yeah, hypothetical collections aside, great figure. Buy him. This is Wake Angel 2001 signing off.